Coming up on Network Africa. Sudan's military leaders reach a power-sharing deal with the opposition alliance. Somalia cuts diplomatic ties with Guinea after the latter hosted the president of the self-declared Republic of Somaliland. Plus, at least 18 migrants fell dead after a boat capsized off the coast of Tunisia. Hello and a warm welcome to the program. I'm Teniola Shubawale. We begin today with good news in Sudan, where the military leaders have reached an agreement with the opposition alliance to share power until elections can be held. The two sides agreed to rotate control of the Sovereign Council for at least 3 years. They have also pledged to form an independent technocratic government and to investigate the violence of recent weeks.
Celebrations in Khartoum as the military council and the opposition reach a power-sharing agreement.
Today is the start of our struggle. I wish that the next phase will fulfill the people's struggle. The Freedom and Change movement carries the biggest burden. The Freedom and Change movement has to be won with the people.
Many here are calling this the beginning of a new era for the Northeast African country. After holding talks in Khartoum for the past 2 days, the ruling military council and a coalition of opposition and protest groups agreed to share power during the transition period leading to the elections. The African Union mediator Mohamed Hassan Lebat said the two sides agreed to establish a sovereign council by rotation between the military and civilians for a period of 3 years or slightly more.
The two sides have also agreed on establishing a sovereign council by rotation between the military and civilians for a period of 3 years or slightly more. They have also agreed upon forming a civilian government called the Government of Independent Skillful Patriotism, headed by a Prime Minister of similar qualities.
They also agreed to form an independent technocratic government and to launch a transparent independent investigation into violent events in recent weeks. This latest development could mean an end to a standoff that has seized Sudan. Talks restarted after a month-long pause and a bloody crackdown by the military, who ousted President Omar al-Bashir in April. The move came after thousands protested his rule, the former leader who seized power in a coup in the late 80s.
Let's get more on this story from the VOA's Naba Mohideen, who joins us live from Khartoum. Thanks for joining us on Network Africa, Naba. Finally, some good news, but why did it take the military council so long to reach a deal with the protesters?
I think that the military council didn't want to share the power and try to make a lot of things and consider to not share power with civilians. That was so obvious with the breakup of the protesters sitting on June 3rd. But with the African Union mediation efforts and also the Ethiopian mediation and the international one represented by the U.S. Mediation also, they have been not forced, but let's say they were in pressure to share power with civilians.
Yeah, initially one of the main issues was the TMC saying it will have a transition period of 2 years. Why has it changed now to 3 years? This was already discussed of the citizens. Of the 4 years transition period, the TMC wants 2 years. So as an agreement, they make it 3 years between the 4 and 2 years transitional period. So it was
something that they make agreement on over 1 month before, not now.
Well, this deal, we know that people were out celebrating on the streets in Sudan, but are there some people that are skeptical about this deal?
Yes, a lot of people are skeptical, especially that they didn't sign the agreement yet. But the African mediators are stated to reporters that they will sign it in 48 hours from now, because people, they don't trust TMC, and for people, they were trying to be clinging to power and not to share it. So people are skeptical, and they think, a lot of people, they think this is a soft landing because it doesn't, it was not talking about the Legislative Council. In the same time, they were not talking about the investigation committee, which should investigate the June 3rd events where where a lot of protesters were injured and dozens were killed.
Which actually leads me to my next question now. As part of the deal, the TMC also promised to investigate the violence of recent weeks. Are the people optimistic that the investigation will be fair?
People are not optimistic because TMC said before that they have an investigative committee, and they refuse the International Investigative Committee. So they don't think that they will give any names, especially there is a good alliance between RSF and security forces and TMC. But they think if there is international pressure, like this mediation effort was made to make the two sides agree on something, maybe they think that investigations will be very clear and very, yeah, they can trust it if there is investigation.
Yeah, well, we really do hope this turns out for the better. VOA's Naba Mahidin, thank you so much for speaking to us on Network Africa. Now, in South Sudan, authorities have scaled up Ebola screening at its border with the Democratic Republic of Congo after a case of the deadly virus was confirmed just 70 kilometers from the border. Health Ministry official Dr. Richard Laku says a team has been sent from the capital, Juba, to Ye River State to support local health officials. He also says that they are on the lookout for people who could have used illegal routes to get into the country from DR Congo, where more than 2,300 cases of Ebola have been recorded in the last 11 months. The World Health Organization says the latest outbreak has killed more than 1,500 people in the DRC. Now, at least 80 migrants are feared dead after a boat capsized off the coast of Tunisia. Reports say 4 people were rescued from the inflatable vessel, which sank in waters near the town of Zarzis, but 1 person died later in hospital. The 3 Malians who were rescued say that they had set out from Zuwara in Libya. The country is a main departure point for migrants hoping to reach Europe. Libya has been torn by violence and division since long-term ruler Muammar Gaddafi was deposed and killed in 2011. Meanwhile, troops loyal to Libyan military strongman General Khalifa Haftar say they have shut down a plane belonging to forces loyal to the rival unity government. This comes after the UN-backed government of National Accord forces say they have lost contact with one of their planes that was on a combat mission south of the capital. The 2 rival camps have both lost several planes in the past 3 months of fighting. A recent upsurge in violence began in April when the Libyan National Army, commanded by General Haftar, launched an offensive against the GNA led by Prime Minister Fayez al-Sarraj. Somalia has cut diplomatic ties with Guinea because it ousted the president of the self-declared Republic of Somaliland. Somaliland declared its independence from Somalia 18 years ago, but Somalia has never recognized this. Somalia now says that Guinea has violated its unity by according the protocols of a head of state to a separatist movement in Somaliland. A statement from the Somali government also says Guinea has disregarded all relevant resolutions of the UN and African consensus. In Ethiopia, the wife of the man accused of masterminding a failed coup in Amara State has been arrested. Brigadier General Asaminu Sige was accused of being behind the killing of the state governor and 2 others on June 22nd. 2 days later, he was killed as he attempted to escape from his hideout in Amara's main city, Bahirda. His daughter says the police raided their home in the capital, Addis Ababa, last week and took away a car, laptop and other documents. Then on Thursday, they arrested her mother, Detsta Asefa. It is not clear why she was detained, and the police have refused to comment on the reported arrest. Egypt has increased fuel prices by up to 30%, the fifth price hike since introducing a tranche of tough economic reforms in 2014. The most commonly used fuels, diesel and 80 octane, rose from 5.50 Egyptian pounds to 6.75 pounds per litre. The price of cooking gas, used mostly by poorer Egyptians, was also increased from 50 to 65 pounds per cylinder, while the price of a commercial cylinder has risen from 100 to 130 pounds. Egypt has been suffering economic slowdown over the past few years of political instability and relevant security challenges. A 3,000-year-old Tutankhamun bust, as Egypt alleged was stolen, has been sold for £4.7 million at an auction in London. Egypt earlier called on auction house Christie's to cancel the sale of the relic, portrayed in the ancient boy king. The country's foreign ministry says that the bust was probably stolen from an Egyptian temple during the 1970s.
Despite protests from the Egyptian government officials and Egypt's embassy in London, a 3,000-year-old artifact has been sold for £4.7 million at Christie's London auction. Egypt's Council of Antiquities had earlier called on the auction house to cancel the sale of the relic head depicting ancient boy king Tutankhamun, with the foreign ministry claiming the bust was stolen from an Egyptian temple during the 1970s.
First of all, we know for sure that it was lifted from Karnak. And we know the pieces of Tutankhamun that was in Karnak. Until 1970, we have a proof that this statue was there. It was lifted after 1970. And we're going to offer all this evidence to the court if we take Christie to court. But I hope that this will not happen. I hope that Christie will be nice to the whole world, not to Egypt, to return the head of Tutankhamun back.
But Christie's says the brown quartzite head was acquired from Munich-based dealer Heinz Herzer in 1985, and that the necessary steps were taken to prove its provenance and the sale was legitimate.
I went to the Munich City Archives and found a trace of the head, and we were able to talk to the previous owners directly, which is very important for us. And when we carry this extensive due diligence, it's of course normal for a piece of this importance. So we have been in touch with the Egyptian authorities, both in Cairo and the Egyptian embassy here, and we informed them about the sale even before the catalogue was published. And so we have a collaborative relationship with them, and we've given them all the information that we have over the piece, because through this research we are confident that the legal status of the piece and the title of ownership is clear.
Egypt has long demanded the return of artifacts taken by archaeologists and imperial adventurers, including the Rosetta Stone kept in the British Museum, campaigns paralleled by Greece's demands for the Parthenon sculptures, Nigeria's for the Benin bronzes, and Ethiopia for the Magdala treasures.
Still to come on the program. Our Africa Tech segment focuses on how to get more women involved in the technology industry. That's in a moment. Please stay with us.